In every war, battles are remembered, leaders are studied, and strategies are debated. But often overlooked are the words that never arrived, the voices caught in transit, censored by authorities, or lost to the chaos of battle. During World War II, millions of letters were written by soldiers, nurses and civilians. They were messages of hope, love, fear and endurance. Yet thousands never made it to their destination. Some were stopped by military censors, others were lost when ships sank or mail depots were bombed, and many more were buried in archives, unopened for decades. These letters represent not just lost communication, but silenced voices. They are fragments of history that reveal what people truly thought and felt, unfiltered by official reports. Understanding them gives us a closer connection to the past and teaches us the human side of global conflict. Letters were a soldier's lifeline to family and normalcy. For soldiers, letters were more than paper. They were anchors to a world beyond the battlefield. Receiving a letter from home lifted morale, and writing one gave purpose during long stretches of silence and danger. Soldiers described daily routines, reassured loved ones, or sometimes confessed fears they would not say aloud to their comrades. Yet censorship meant these words were not always delivered. Military authorities reviewed outgoing and incoming letters to prevent sensitive information from leaking. A soldier might write about troop positions, weather conditions or losses, and those lines would be cut or blacked out before the letter was sent. Entire letters were sometimes withheld if deemed unsafe. For families waiting anxiously at home, silence could be devastating. The absence of a letter often carried more fear than bad news itself. Civilian letters reveal the struggles of life under occupation. It was not only soldiers who wrote letters that never reached their destination. Civilians in occupied countries often tried to contact relatives abroad or in free territories. Postal services were disrupted, censored or outright banned. In Nazi-occupied Europe, letters were intercepted and examined for hidden codes or forbidden information. Many were destroyed on suspicion alone. These undelivered words carried stories of hunger, displacement and quiet resistance. Some families tried to smuggle notes through underground networks or neutral countries, yet many messages vanished in transit. Today, recovered civilian letters show daily struggles, parents describing ration lines, children speaking of missing school, and workers conscripted into forced labour. These fragments provide details no military archive could capture. Mail routes were as vulnerable as battlefronts. One reason so many letters never arrived was the fragility of wartime mail routes. Ships carrying bags of correspondence were torpedoed in the Atlantic. Trains delivering mail across Europe were bombed. In the Pacific, letters sent by soldiers on islands were delayed for months or lost entirely as battle lines shifted. For soldiers, the disappearance of a letter was not unusual. Some carried unsent notes in their pockets, intending to post them at the next opportunity, only to be killed before that chance came. Decades later, these personal notes have been discovered in battlefield relics, unopened envelopes left in trunks, or even returned to families by historians who uncovered them in archives. You know, censorship silenced more than just military strategy. It silenced emotion too. Official censorship was, of course, intended to keep secrets from the enemy, but it also, filtered out genuine feeling. Soldiers who wrote honestly about their despair, the poor conditions they faced, or even their doubts about the war effort, often had their words withheld. In Britain, Germany, the United States and the Soviet Union, censors routinely screened for what they called dangerous morale effects. Entire bundles of correspondence could be delayed or even destroyed just to prevent negative accounts from reaching the home front. And what this really means is that many of the most honest and vulnerable voices of the Second World War never reached their intended audience. What we now read in recovered letters are often those very silenced perspectives, notes that reveal frustration with leadership, the utter exhaustion of endless campaigns, or the deep pain of separation. These missing letters serve as a reminder that history is shaped not only by what was said, but also by what was deliberately withheld. The value of these lost letters, both for historians and for families, is really quite profound. Today, the surviving letters that never reached their recipients have immense value, you know. For historians, they offer those little details of daily life. How meals were eaten, how soldiers passed the time, what civilians feared most, that official records so rarely mention. For families, these letters can provide a sense of closure, giving descendants a glimpse of relatives they never met or heard directly from. Museums and archives all around the world have worked to preserve these documents, often digitizing them so that the words can finally be read, even decades after they were written. And for history enthusiasts, these letters serve as windows into unfiltered human experience. Reading them is, in a way, to hear voices long silenced by war and bureaucracy. Now, the lessons from the letters that never made it are still relevant today. For survivalists and modern readers alike, these lost letters teach us more than just history. They show us the fragility of communication in times of crisis. During the Second World War, entire regions would go silent because mail routes simply collapsed. Families learned to pass information through coded phrases, neutral mediators, or even physical couriers, rather than relying solely on official channels. And honestly, the same principle applies today when we think about resilience during modern crises. Preparing alternative ways to communicate, through written notes, radio, or secure couriers, remains just as vital when systems fail. The past really does show us that words can be just as crucial as food or shelter when it comes to maintaining hope. These forgotten voices, they truly deserve to be remembered. Ultimately, the letters that never reached home remind us that war was not only fought with weapons, but with words as well. They were messages of love that never comforted, confessions that never found ears, and updates that never calmed fears. Each unopened envelope represents a broken line of connection, a reminder that war silences just as much as it destroys. For us today, uncovering these voices is in itself an act of remembrance. It restores humanity to a story so often told only in numbers and dates. These letters were not lost forever. They are rediscovered, studied and shared, giving life back to voices once forgotten. If you believe these hidden voices of history deserve to be heard, subscribe to In the Beginning and share this video with others who value the stories behind the battles. Together, we can keep alive the words that war once tried to silence.